Welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Tuesday, the 5th of April. The other day, I don't know what I was watching or listening to, but I heard somebody refer to something as their rumpus room. And it got me thinking about when I was a kid. In the 70s, we referred to our basement room as a rumpus room. And by the 80s, we were calling it the rec room or the recreation room. And lately, especially now as we prepare to move to our new home, I've been talking about the man cave, or, it's really not Rob's style to have his man cave. So I've been calling it LegoLand. I like alliteration. But there's there's also a thing out there called the she shed or the spa. I watch a lot of HGTV and, the House Hunters International and people designing things. And I'm kind of fascinated by that. I think maybe that'll ease up now that I've got soon to have my own house to work on changing floors and painting and all that hard work. So maybe the desire to watch all those things will dry up as I put equity, like work sweat into the equity of my home. But it got me thinking about those rooms, those spaces that are so important to us, that rumpus room or a rec room or the man cave or a she shed or even a spa. These women who want like a big, huge walk-in shower that could fit a dozen people with a steam spray and a rain shower head and all this stuff, as well as a soaker tub and all that stuff. I think those are awesome. Am I going to live without them? Absolutely. But they're awesome. But this idea of having a space where we feel comfortable to do the things we enjoy. A rumpus room, this says it all. I think in the 70s, I was born in 71. So, from 0 to 9 years old, the 70s, there was a lot of rumpus happening in our rec rooms, in our basement rooms. And when I spelled rec when I was a kid, I didn't spell it R-E-C as in recreation. I spelled it W-R-E-C-K. More like the things that we wrecked. The things that got broken and messed around and things like that. But the idea was that we had a space where we could go to be ourselves, where we could just, cut loose and lay on the floor and watch Wonder Woman cartoons or Little House on the Prairie, or I could tuck in behind my mom's black chair in the corner in front of the built-in bookshelves that my grandfather built and pretend I was reading Mein Kampf by Hitler. I know that sounds insane, but it was like a really big book and had the coolest cover on it. And I had no idea what it was. It was in German. So even though I was a voracious reader at 8 years old, I didn't know what it meant. But it was like just felt adult. And I would crawl into the corner there and pretend I was reading it. Sick child, I know. But our rumpus room, and later in life when we moved to Listowel and other places, our rec room, W-R-E-C-K rec room, were places where we played board games and we took our friends downstairs and we played Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew mysteries and we played hide and seek and we chatted with each other and we talked about when we'd be old enough, like our babysitters, to play spin the bottle, things like that. The things you think of when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. And then now we've got this whole movement for men to have the man cave. And, in my mind, I think man cave and I think beer ring stains and cigars and baseball caps and hockey cards and things like that. But more and more often, when you see things or you hear people talk about them, a man cave is a place where a man gets to be a man again, where a man can go and be masculine, dark wood, intelligent novels and books on the shelves. Maybe even a bar. In my mind, I love those bars that are, they're the globe that opens up and then the crystal and the whiskey are right there and they close it up again. But it's a place where, the big, kind of like those gentlemen's clubs back in the day when they still had them, when it was okay to have them. And where men could go and they could smoke a cigar and they could talk about whatever they talked about. I don't know, but my hunch is that men didn't really talk about a whole bunch of sleazy things that would make women blush. I think men just talked about life and talked about sports and their families and work and just sat there and chewed the fat because there was no one there telling them that they couldn't say that or they couldn't do that and they couldn't be that or they couldn't dream that. And I think that's what man caves are really about. allowing men a space that has no women rules, nobody coming in saying you must pick up your socks or make sure you put a coaster under your drink or, all those things, where a guy can just go and be, whether it's to build Lego or model ships or to bring a friend, watch a movie, watch Platoon on TV or do something like that. It's just a place where men can go and be. And now there's this thing, I didn't even know they existed, but Rob told me when I started talking about this topic, and I was talking about spas, about women having their spa. And you know what, I get it. When our stepson lived with us when the boys, especially in Borden, where we only have one bathroom and the boys would come for the summer, being able to go into a bathroom and lock the door was a luxury. Being able to go into one and have a bath with candles, maybe a cup of tea, glass of wine, just kick back, know that no one's going to walk in, beautiful music in the background. I don't do that very often. It's not my thing, but knowing I could, that would be beautiful. So I get it. Women need a place where they can go and do what guys do in man caves, only the woman thing. But now there's these things called she sheds. I think the idea is it's like that shed in the backyard where, maybe gardening or having a chair and a book where you can sit with a book and read and drink your tea or have the ladies over and play poker, whatever it is women do when women get together. I don't think we knit that much anymore. But the idea being that we, again, women, like men in man caves, have a place where they can go where there's no judgment, where no one is telling what they can and cannot do. Having that place where you can simply be yourself, whoever that might be, where you feel comfortable, where you can recreate yourself, like a rec room. Or heck, if you need to, you can wreck something, like my kind of rec room. There's something powerful about having a room of one's own. Virginia Woolf wrote about that. The importance of a woman having a room of her own. I think all people should have one. I'm a big believer that kids should have a room of their own, if at all possible. I'm not suggesting that every family goes out and buys a house that is big enough to have a bedroom for every child. If you can't do that, that's okay. But there's something to be said for a child, at least past a certain point of time. They need their privacy. They need their own space where they can look at figure out what they're going to wear to school tomorrow, or they can talk on their phone, or just simply dream about things, or do their hobbies, or just be by themselves. And too many times we keep our kids so busy, like I talked about on Friday, that we keep our kids so bloody busy that they have no time to recreate themselves. So having the room of their own, a place where they can go and close the door and just be and refill their tank, is so important. But I think we've also done ourselves a disservice in the church world in that we have created church, or at least I don't think that's the reality when you get to church for a lot of times, but I think out there in the world for people who don't go to church, we have created this image that church is not a rumpus room, a rec room, a man cave, or a she shed, or certainly not a spa. The church is that place where there's rules and judgment, and I'm going to be frowned upon when I come in if I don't wear the right thing or if I sit in someone else's pew. We have created this idea that the church is the least friendly place you can be. This sense that if you go to church, you certainly won't be able to take a deep breath and center yourself in God's presence and be filled back up the way you would be in your she shed or man cave or rec room or rumpus room. And there's something I think that we've got to change that, because it's great to have liturgies that have integrity and have a gentleness and yet a rhythm to them. And it's important, as I've talked about kids in church before, it's important that kids not simply rip around, not disrespectfully, but there is also something to be said for a child who feels comfortable walking around and just going and sitting with somebody else, or coloring, or looking at things and being curious and being allowed to. But the same thing should be said for adults. When people come into our churches, do they feel comfortable? Do they feel like this is a place where I can, of course I'm going to be uncomfortable the first few minutes I get here, but as I sort of sit down and acclimate, do I feel like this is a place where I can be not judged, not stared at, not told I'm sitting in the wrong pew, but just come in and be myself and get filled up and leave, and then hopefully come back. I don't think we should turn churches into rumpus rooms or rec rooms or man caves or she sheds. But I think there's something to be said when our society is looking so hard for that one room of their own that they can feel comfortable in. There's something being said to us in the church world that, you know what, we maybe need to do something about making sure our churches and our church spaces can help people feel comfortable there too. Just a thought. What do you think? Rumpus room, rec room, man cave or she shed or spa? What would be your favorites? What do you need? And what do you think the church could do to help you get that need filled? Have a great day. God bless you. And know that you are loved.